welcome to the Appalachian Podcast once again. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Taylor. Welcome back to Franklin County Speedway.
Yeah, it's good to be back up in here. Seemed like I noticed when we come in with come into the track, the sign was still on a board from last April. I'm glad he's on
smart mods.
Yeah, for the smart mods. I'm glad that he's on top of that.
Yeah, we're up here today for the Cars Tour race at Franklin County Speedway. It's going to be one hell of a race. A ton of people are already here. Of course, you know, we were here about a month back for the modified race. Had Steve Post, Matthew Dillner, and Julian Austin co-hosting, and we were welcomed once again by Julian's presence. So, Julian, welcome to Callaway.
Oh,
the Jew.
It is great to be here once again. It's funny you mentioned that. When I came in through the front gates this morning, I thought, wait a minute, am I having deja vu? I mean, they got the smart modified stuff up here. But I will tell a quick story if I could.
I'll go for it.
Tell it.
So the last 2 weekends, I feel like I'm a jinx. I don't even know if I should be sitting here right now. The last 2 weekends, I've been following the local short track tours. The Cars Tour 2 weeks ago, as of this recording, we were at Ace Speedway. And we all the way down the road, no rain. I mean, it is nice outside, some clouds, not too much. And then as soon as we get down there, here comes the deluge of rain. So, Cars Tour, Ace Speedway, canceled. Postponed, later date. Last weekend, I am a gambler. I'm a gambler, guys. Okay? I think y'all know that pretty well.
Yep.
So, I take a look at the weather forecast. And I'm like, you know what? 15% chance of showers and T-storms at Bowman Gray Stadium. So you know what? I'm going to ride down to the Madhouse.
You like those odds, 15%.
15% odd. Yeah. I mean, hey, I could deal with that. Show up to the racetrack. Here comes the rain. Canceled. So, and then as soon as I get to Kernersville, which is like 10, 15 minutes away from the track, it's sun shining like it is today. So... I don't know how I'm allowed in this place today. I feel like I'm a jinx.
Well, they're calling for thunderstorms around 3, so.
And it'll probably be about 2 inches of rain, knowing my luck. So, So there's that.
Yeah. And it'll probably bring a massive increase in humidity.
Around 5, it's a significant chance of thunderstorms.
Well, this time of year, this weather anyway. This is crazy weather, right?
Yeah.
I
So we'll see.
mean, a little over 30 days ago, we were sitting here. We were coming off a record low temperature for April. Like I thawed out a couple days later from that Martinsville trip, and here it is, a little over 30 days, we're talking 90 degrees. So if you're not happy with the weather in Southwest Virginia, just wait a little bit, 5 minutes, you're good.
Well, you know, with them hot temperatures, it's going to produce those track conditions that Bodine is always talking about.
Yep.
So we're going to get into that and all kinds of things. Just like that, the last show up here, we really have no idea what direction this is going in. All we do is sit up here and talk and hope some people stop by. And our first guest today for this first segment is somebody, probably a lot of people out there who have paid attention to our Twitter or Facebook or anything and seen some of the stuff we've shared. Been up here at the Speedway for a long, long time. We're going to get into that, you know, and his passion for it and just talk about the Cars Tour race today. And we're joined by Kenny Lang. Kenny, welcome to the Appalachian Podcast. We appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, Billy. Thank you very much. It's good to be
Mike not on, I don't believe there.
Oh, well. We good, Bodine?
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Appreciate it, Billy. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you guys today.
This is a place that we've all been coming to since we were kids. And you said you've been coming here since, what, 1971?
Yes, sir. 1971, my father started bringing me. It's a pretty big joke with him nowadays. He just turned, he'll be 82 actually in July. And he started bringing me here when I couldn't walk or talk. And I told him I was going to drag him to the racetrack till he couldn't walk or talk. So he's my race buddy. My brother comes with us quite a bit, but my dad, he hangs with me pretty tight. So.
And you have quite a bit of history with this track too. You were talking to us before we started about, you know, some of the promotions you've done up here and just the things like that. How deep does that go with you?
It goes pretty deep. Like I said earlier, started coming over here, spent a lot of teenage years over here watching, great drivers, the McGuires, the Reedies, the six-pack Cundits and stuff. And
now you're talking our
talking
Yeah,
our language.
that's our wheelhouse there.
Yeah.
And as as the years went on, and I wanted to stay in the racing deal, I kind of got into it heavy when Richard Gluth leased the track in 2007 and 2008. The first year he was an independent, and the second year he ran under the ASA short track banner. And I did public relations and
I did not
marketing.
know that. I didn't know this place fell under ASA for a year.
Just for that 1 year it did in
Wow.
2008.
Does ASA even exist anymore?
No.
I don't
Didn't think so.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about like
thought
ASA,
maybe in the Midwest or something, but
the series that we used to like tune into on a Friday night on TNN
Yes.
and catch a 150 lap race.
Yeah.
That was a great series.
It was a great series, and it just probably got absorbed
Yeah.
more or less. Not really goes defunct, like you absorb the class, the guys, and some of the rules or whatever. It just merges in with another one because the series compete against each other.
It's kind of like the super late models of today kind of absorbed the ASA cars, because there at the very end they were running some V8 crate engines, which most of the time when in their heyday they ran the V6 motors in the ASA cars. But
well,
yeah.
In their heyday in the Nationals Series tour, they had the TNN television
Oh,
package.
Yes.
And
yeah,
TNN early in the 2000s went through a very significant change to where CBS Viacom pretty much purchased them out, and they're like, well, we don't really need auto racing on this network. We're looking towards, it ended up being Spike TV for men, and just they were kind of phasing it out, and that did not help that series at all.
And now you know why I've been telling you Billy Julian needs to be on here. Who knows that besides him?
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
good
random,
stuff.
useful information that I didn't know.
Well,
Because TNN's coverage, me and Julian have lived,
it used to be what it was. Buddy Baker, right? Wouldn't
yeah,
you?
Buddy Baker and
Neil Bonnet, maybe.
So
Neil did fill in. I think he was a
I think
color
Rick
hound.
Benjamin did a lot of the ASA
So,
stuff on
yeah,
TNN back in the day.
I was talking
Ralph
about the
Shaheen.
NASCAR package.
Yeah.
Ralph
Yeah.
Shaheen did a lot of the TNN stuff for the ASA series. Of course, Ralph, we all know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's a big short track advocate, even to this day still. But TNN opened up a lot of doors for these series, and and then we could go on and on about this conversation, what it could lead to. But that's something that's really been lacking for the last several years, and we've got a series right in front of us, the Cars Tour, that kind of reminds me of the ASA series somewhat.
Yeah.
And right on time, there goes an engine. So
Well, it makes good for background noise at the track. It really does. It really added to our last show. Now, we screwed up a little bit with the sound when it came to the races. I didn't have my headphones on, but it was a lot of fun. You think back on it, and we sat down and got to call Stock 4 race with Matthew Dillon. Probably the first time a podcast has ever happened on this racetrack, and we called a race, and we had a lot of fun with it. And a lot of people really, related to that. Callaway is such a historic place. I mean, you just come up here, the smells, the vibe. I mean, there's nothing else like it.
I mean, the thing about this place to me, being a fan of so many years, you sit right on top of the action. You go to a place like Motor Mile, which I frequent very often because the race team I work with now runs there. It's like you're sitting miles away from the racetrack. But places like here, Ace, South Boston, I mean, you're sitting right on top of it. And I think that's what the fans really like.
So you just mentioned you work with a race team. Would you care to elaborate what race team you work with up there?
Yeah, I'm the public relations and marketing director for Brian Reedy and Reedy Racing out of Roanoke. We've run late model for quite a few years. I tell my buddies my claim to fame is I spotted the last late model stock car races for his dad, Tank, at Motor Mile and at Franklin County.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I spotted Brian when he won his late model race here.
Now, when you were spotting, were you standing over there on the picnic tables, or?
No, sir, in the spotter stand over here on the backside.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which that is me and my brother, my dad built that little spotter stand for Langley here about 5 or 6 years ago.
We just thought it was funny because we were over here for the Smart Mods, and there were some spotters standing on the picnic table. I said, Franklin County's the only place you probably come to see, and it adds to the lure.
Yeah.
It adds to the lure of this place. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, the place is not aesthetically pleasing. Everybody knows that, but I would rather watch a race here than I would any short
That's what
track
it
I've
is.
ever been to. And I have a long list of places, of course, that I frequented to watch racing. So
is one of your cars racing out here today?
no,
Today,
sir, I'm a fan today. Got the Blackstone over on the backstretch. Going to grill up some bologna burgers with my dad and my brother, and just be a big fan today.
You're talking Bodine's language now.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, I'm a big fan of bologna burgers.
Oh yeah.
And Ace has got my top racetrack bologna burger so far.
Do not say that to South Boston.
Well, no, I have never been to South Boston. I'm sorry.
You're
Don't
missing out.
hold that against me.
They took it personally. I tweeted that on online about the Ace bologna burger, and I think they took offense to it.
I can hear him now because that is a tremendous burger.
They've even got a Twitter handle for
Yeah,
the bologna
the burger
sandwich.
itself has a Twitter handle.
Yeah.
I think we're going to try and make it down there for the SRX race. You planning on?
I'm more of a local guy,
Oh, yeah.
more than that. So I'll definitely go to the 200 lap late model show they have the week after the SRX. But that'll be a good show. I mean, it should be great. I like what that series is doing.
Yeah, and Peyton Sellers is expected to be in that. And, of course, that's a South Boston staple, as we all know. I'm really interested to see how he competes with some of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, needless to say, you would think he has the advantage at a track like that as he's competing with the Matt Kenseths and the Ryan Newmans of the world, or, Helio Castroneves is in that race. So that's intriguing to me because I don't think he's ever raced on a track. Well, last year they raced on some tracks like that. But when you think of Helio, you think of these world-class road courses and,
You do.
4-time winner of the Indy 500. And here he's going to shake it down at South Boston.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's going to be a
unbelievable.
fun day.
That's one thing I think the short track world misses a lot more than back in the 80s when Harry Gant and Darrell Walter and Bobby Allison, they would fly into this place after practicing at like a Pocono or Dover, and they'd run a Saturday night show and then fly back out. The Larsons maybe and a few other drivers, but I think that's what's missing. These drivers, they run all the big tracks, but they don't come back to the grassroots and spend time like they should.
How they put the package together, the TV and the sponsorship package for that series made it to where they could make it an almost exclusive series. You almost had to have an invite to race it. And then they go around to all the local tracks and pick up a Peyton Sellers that's used to racing there to compete against the other big names. Sort of IROC-esque, maybe, except short track. All the cars are identical, built by the same person, set up by the same people, and run. Everything's identical. But you run it at different tracks, and you have a set group of racers. And then when you go to those particular tracks, they have contests. And there's a girl running in the Nashville one. I can't think of her name, but she competed against a bunch of other drivers in a local race to be able to get into the SRX race. I couldn't tell you her name right off. It's been a couple of months since I read that.
I
But
think
I
her
thought,
name may be JoJo.
is that it?
I'm not sure.
Julian's looking it up over
I may
here.
be wrong, but
Well, how
Her
about
name is on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
And I know who
Money
you're
Matt
talking about.
Hirschman won up at Stafford and got his way into the SRX race coming up there.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. That's a race car driver right
you
there.
ain't kidding, man. I was really bummed he didn't make a Smart Tour race here.
Yes. And I don't know why, because we know he would have. There's a good chance he would have cleaned house.
Well, he's got two cars. He's got the black car that he runs primarily down south,
Yeah.
and he's got the red car he runs up north. I think he ran in Pennsylvania that Saturday night. But back in the day, they would have drove all night to get here. Well, the Tommy Baldwin crew ran in Connecticut that night and drove all the way down to run on Sunday. So
It's just impressive to see somebody like him to be able to do that and go up there at Stafford and be able to accomplish that against those guys. And that's impressive. But as I've heard so many times and I've talked about on here, they say the man is a machine. He is dedicated. That race car is a full commitment to him. Everything about it.
And see, that's what made Philip Morris such a good driver in
Yeah.
late model stock cars. If you ever went to, I'm an early guy. I like to go watch practice and sit there and burn up in 90-degree heat and watch it all. Hardly ever would you see Philip not up underneath the hood of that car or up underneath it making adjustments. always working on the race car.
Yeah, he knew every inch of that car,
Oh, yeah.
and that's what, Matt Hirschman's the same way. I mean, there's a reason why they call him Money Matt. Well, there's two reasons. One, he wins all the big money races. Number two, if you make a bet on him, you're probably going to walk away with some money. I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably one of the most impressive modified drivers I've seen in the last decade or so.
We have to put him up in an argument with Richie Evans, Satchwar Elite, those guys. Well, maybe not. It's not fair because they have such a history.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, I'd say he's newer, but it's kind of like comparing Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon to Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
They've had that. They're the previous era. Here he comes in. It is so difficult to compare drivers, but you can't argue with success at the same time. And
Yeah, it's all about context, Bodine. I mean,
it is.
We could sit here, me and you've had these discussions, sometimes heated discussions.
I wouldn't say
About-
heated.
I would
Well-
definitely say heated. We always have heated discussions.
I mean, where's the gift with the popcorn?
Don't throw me in there because I'll get heated a little bit too.
Well,
Hey, and that's fine. I mean,
'Cause
that's
I'm a-
fine because it does make for interesting debates.
I'm a big Paul Radford fan, so
I hate to call it heated though. I say they're good debates and
Yeah.
debates that need to be had without getting mad. Like my opinion, I think Jimmy Johnson is the greatest Cup driver ever. Julian leans a little bit more toward Jeff Gordon. I respect that opinion because I don't think either one of us can totally 100% prove that opinion, but we can make a good argument for both. And I respect the Jeff Gordon side of the angle. And we debate this and statistics and
I say
everything.
Earnhardt, but and I didn't even like
Well,
Earnhardt. I
you know,
I didn't like Johnson that well either.
I don't want to get off topic with that though, because
No, I mean
No,
we're just
that
talking.
could be for another show.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah, we'll get into that. And I'd like to one day. We've talked about doing a racing exclusive podcast. That might be a show in itself. We'll spend an hour and let the listeners kind of decide the way they lean.
well, to swing back around to the SRX stuff, Bodine had mentioned it kind of follows the old path of IROC. Well, where I think IROC screwed up is when you show up every single weekend to the same track NASCAR's at, you're going to get a handful of people and you will get that big TV audience. But the SRX coming to these short tracks, they're filling up these stadiums every single week.
Yeah.
And it's the show of the town. It's not the show when you got the big race on Sunday, but when it's coming to these, and that's kind of stuff that I think is generating the excitement for these short tracks. You can go out there and run in Daytona and IROC, and that's all fine and dandy, but, can you come to a half mile? Can you come to a, eighth of a mile at Bowman Grove if they decided to do it there? I mean, let's really see what you boys are made of.
What was the smallest track that IROC ever raced on? I don't know that.
Nazareth, maybe? Did they ever race Nazareth?
that
They
sounds
raced
about
Nazareth
right.
some. Towards the end, they were primarily Daytona, Charlotte.
Michigan.
They did run
Talladega.
Richmond. I do remember they ran
Yeah, I was
Richmond.
going to say Richmond's probably the smallest that I could think of.
But it turned into a primarily a NASCAR type series
Yeah.
as far as the drivers that was in that series.
Yeah, they probably made up 2/3 of the field.
2/3 of
They
the
did.
field were top 5 in cut points, maybe 6. Xfinity and truck, maybe another person from that series. And then you might have an IndyCar guy and
Al
Steve
Unser,
Kinder.
Al Unser
Kinder,
Jr.
excuse me.
raced in it a lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I believe he
did.
raced in it. And they run on those big tracks like Michigan. And there was a lot of good racing in that series, but it was hard to attract people to interest for that. And I think that Billy goes back to that. It was a little stagnant.
Yeah, and
It
I
turns-
think the interest now is the short track aspect, of it,
Absolutely.
and not the big, huge tracks. You get these grassroots tracks, and people want to come out and see those guys they've never watched race before in person a lot. So
People want content and they want to feel included. And you go to a big track, you don't necessarily get that exclusiveness. Here, I mean, we're sitting probably 10 yards away, maybe, from the action.
Yeah.
You can't get this close at a Texas
No, you can't.
or anything
Well,
like
even
that.
if you do, unless it's the big race, if you go there for a truck race or something, you're so spread out
yeah,
that you're not around fans, you're not enjoying yourself, you're not, it's just kind of like you're there. And it's not to take anything away from the racing, but
No, not at all.
it's just, You know, that feeling they get when you kind of get in there and get back. That's why Martinsville always produces such. That Xfinity race at Martinsville was a massive crowd this year. I bet it felt good to be there for that race because there's a lot of people.
It was cold.
But
it
didn't feel good outside. But, yeah, I mean, and then, you know, you go to the Cup race at Martinsville, it was pretty boring watching it on TV. It wasn't much to
Everybody and their cousin agrees with you except for Bodine. I don't know.
I just like racing.
Yeah. I know what it is Bodine wanted to disagree with me at that very moment, and from there on out, he just stuck to his guns the entire time, and in the face of every single person with a shred of common sense, he wanted to make an argument.
I did not miss a lap. I loved it. Was 3 different strategies, and that's just I love that different type of racing. Yeah. Was the action there? Nope, definitely wasn't. Give me some ride heights, we'll get back to it, and get rid of the diffuser on the short tracks. Anything below a mile needs to get rid of that diffuser. It'll fix that problem. Let them beat and bang and move around and not be held down by that. But
well, it doesn't help when there's no tire fall off and it's 25 degrees.
The tire fall off hurt it the most.
They're not made to race on that cold in that cold weather. It's not made for that.
Now they had a ride height rule. You bring back the rocking chair, you get fall off.
Yeah.
You get that rocking chair effect of the race cars, you'll get tire fall off. You don't get that with these cars that are tied down.
Or if you start messing with the hard and soft tires like y'all were discussing on the last show, when y'all had Honeycutt and the guys from the Nelson group.
I think they were talking about a tire that was soft on the inside and was hard on the outside, wasn't it? It was 2 different compounds made into one tire.
Yeah, it was actually quite intriguing, and I'm a little surprised they haven't went back to that because they did try that at the All-Star race. Ironically, about 5 or 6 years ago this weekend, they tried that, and they really didn't go back to that.
I don't know what the deal was with that.
Formula One has been messing with that, and that's not the greatest series, of course, for passing, but it kind of is interesting when you talk about, you know, the difference between the tire fall off there. So,
but they have a choice of tires. They have one compound that's soft and one that's hard. I think IndyCar does the same thing at road courses. They don't do it on ovals. I think they run one tire on ovals. But anyways, still goes back to the same thing. You need that tire fall off. You need them to slip and slide. And weather conditions like today add to that because there's barely a cloud in the sky, and the sun is just pounding that black surface out there.
Yeah. And speaking of the reason why we're here, the Cars Tour, they did have practice yesterday. What do you guys, Kenny? I know you would probably be real good at this. What do you guys think of the tire fall off here for today? You know,
I've talked to a few guys. They think that the tire fall off is not as bad here as you would think, especially with as old as the surface is. But they'll be slipping and sliding. But the track record's in serious jeopardy today. Honeycutt turned a 13.66 in this mock run yesterday on brand new tires, and that's better than the late model track record, and it's only 2 1,000ths off the UARA late model track record. So
so I'm glad you brought that up because if you haven't listened to our episode with him, go back and listen to it. Not here for a second with Caden Honeycutt and Jeff Sesta and DJ Jack, crew members for the Nelson boys. Tell you what, that was a really fun episode. You want to talk about just getting down to it? I mean, I think back on the boating, that was one of the most interesting and fun racing conversations we've had.
I think we had as much interaction and things in common with those guys as anybody we've ever had. And the first thing Caden was talking about the track, and I told him, I said, all right, when you go through 1 and 2, if the car is tight, there's some weeds growing up and a patch of grass. You just get the right rear tire on them weeds, and it'll help that thing rotate in. He comes out the next day and almost blisters the track record. I was like, I got you, man.
Yeah, and, most drivers that I've talked to, they love driving this place. They say it is just a blast.
Every driver we've ever spoke to, Bobby Labonte and Paul Hall, just everybody.
And I'm going to date myself a little bit. I watched Bobby Labonte run a late model Sportsman Malibu here back in 1984.
He talked about that.
Yeah.
Malibu.
Yep, it was a Chevy Malibu.
I think he talked about that either on the Dale Jr. podcast or Rick Houston's The Scene. But one of those two, he talked about coming up here to this track. Yeah. There's been a handful of references in some of those shows.
Oh, yeah.
The one with Ronnie Thomas was fantastic.
I mean, it's just so many great race car drivers have come through these gates. I mean, the Sam Ards, Jimmy Hensley's, Paul Radford, Satch Worley's,
Rick Mast,
Jimmy Mullins, Rick Mast, Bobby Allison, Darrell Waltrip, Dave Marcus, Lenny Pond. I mean, I could go on and on of all the names that have driven this place.
Probably some other names you may not realize
Yeah.
have raced here.
And on my
Bubba Wallace has
Yeah.
raced here.
And my favorite part is it was this exact surface.
Yes.
It has not changed. The memories that are in this surface are historic. If they ever were to tear this place up, we got to have a chunk of the asphalt to preserve.
And actually, Bubba Wallace won the first race that Left Turn Promotions promoted here in 2009.
Oh, wow.
I've got a,
Okay.
if you guys are familiar with the 611 Steakhouse in Roanoke.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a picture.
You talk food, you can tell we know what you're talking about.
I'm right with you, brother. But there's a picture of Darrell and Victory Lane of our race because they were one of our presenting sponsors that day. And
I frequent that place quite a bit.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
right down the road from me.
It's a buffet.
So where do you live?
So I'm originally from Franklin County.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Rocky Mount.
Yeah.
And I lived here for a good 29 years or so. And now I live in Roanoke, Cave Spring area.
Okay.
Just because it's closer to my job.
Because I live in the Mount Pleasant area of Roanoke County over in Southeast County off of
Okay.
116.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
definitely know that part.
I'm just over Burnt Chip.
Windy Gap.
Yeah, I can hit Windy Gap and come over. So
That's a good area to live in because you sit close to Roanoke, you sit close to the lake, and you still kind of in Franklin County.
Yeah, but all it takes is one dumbass truck driver to ruin your day.
oh,
You're
yeah.
right. You're right.
Now see, I'm a quarter mile out of Roanoke City, but where I live is farmland and horses and cows. But it's we come a quarter mile in the city. Down the hill, you're at
Right there at the
gas,
fire station.
at gas station,
Oh,
and
yeah,
food
yeah.
line,
I know
stuff
exactly
like
it,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that was Mount Pleasant. I've always heard that, but I never really thought about
Yeah.
it.
Well, so while we're here and what we're here for, let's talk about the Cars Tour a little bit. We've touched on it a handful of times in some of our shows. As most of you know, our bread and butter has been the smart mods. We've got a really good relationship with Chris. A lot of those drivers, we really enjoy it, but we do love the late models as well. This is my first Cars Tour race. And I know Julian's been talking about him for quite some time to make sure you go for years now. Actually, it's one of the big reasons we always wanted to come on the show. So for anybody that's listening that might not know much about the Cars Tour, Julian, just give them a brief synopsis of kind of where they come from, where they're at, and those.
So the Cars Tour is basically a result of the old Hooters Cup Tour. If people remember that from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Hooters Pro Cup.
The
right?
Hooters
Oh
Pro
yeah,
Cup.
definitely.
And, that series produced, Bobby Gill, Jeff Agnew,
Wow,
Clay
that's
Rogers,
a name right there, Jeff Agnew.
Brian Vickers raced there. I mean, there's others that competed in that series, and that series fell on some hard times in the mid-2000s. And so the Cars Tour was basically born out of that idea. Well, as it turned out, the car counts weren't that great, and then that led towards, okay, let's try late models. Because late models, and, people could argue about this, but late models are probably easier to put together or get access to compared to those stock cars that the Hooters Pro Cup were running, because they were more like a bush car. And where, this late model tour, instead of trying to run all across the country or up and down the East Coast, primarily the Cars Tour hits North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. So, and we all know that this area is a huge hotbed for racing. I mean, there's a 3 or 4 hour drive can take you to many legendary tracks around this area. And so this series has grown throughout the years. I mean, Josh Berry came from the Cars Tour. A lot of other names. Anthony Alfredo come from the Cars Tour.
Fast pasta.
Fast Pasta. So that's, for those of you that don't know, that's where this series came from. And it is, I can't wait to see the turnout. I hope we have a really good turnout out here for today.
And Julian's been saying this since I would say 2016 or 17. I really wasn't listening. Now I'm listening. Now I'm seeing. It was somewhere in that area when you started talking about it, and I've been hearing you talk about it for years. He said they've been telling us the series is getting some traction. This is getting some big names, and it took over the slot for NASCAR late models, essentially. I mean, it wasn't the same series, but it kind of fills that void. Is that a good statement or an accurate statement?
Yeah, I mean, the cars are basically the same still, the NASCAR late model and the Cars Tour late model. But, I mean, a lot of guys, they like to travel.
Yeah.
Of course, it's getting hard to travel nowadays with the way the economy's getting, but a lot of these guys, they like to go to different tracks and not be a one-track jack most of the time. So, well, and if they're looking to progress their career, they get seen on the pit road TV stuff, and it gets a lot of good media attention also.
You know what I really like about this series is, and I don't know why, and maybe y'all can explain it to me. I don't know if modified racing is more of a niche, more of a smaller community, but when the late model race comes here, the field count is up to 27. I don't remember how many were here for the Smart Mods, about maybe 23.
21,
21, okay.
Last one, yeah.
But you have a whole lot more local guys will show up because more local guys have late models will come in from a handful of these tracks around than have, you got Bowman Gray around here. And, I mean, maybe there's a couple other tracks that have weekend series for modifieds, but for the most part, every track has a late model series. So you're dipping down. Probably got a couple of South Boston guys up here today. You might have a couple New River guys. Local guys, Ryan Dudley, that's one. Who else?
So I got the entry list right here. We have Mike Looney, former winner of the Valley Star race at Martinsville Speedway. He's entered. Carson Quapple. Now, a lot of people recognize that last name.
That's Junior Motorsports.
Travis Quapple's son.
He's Travis Quapple's son, and he's in the Junior Motorsports umbrella. Then you have Darren Cockrum. He's raced here for many years. Bobby Gillespie's on the entry list.
Jimmy Mullins.
I mean, my goodness.
That's right. He is racing today, ain't he?
Jimmy Mullins. How many track championships does he have here?
He won both of the track championships when Duluth had the track. I do know that.
Yeah.
And maybe one before that.
Yeah, I think he did in the mid to late 90s as well. I seem to remember that. So, and of course, Dudley, like you mentioned, Kyle Dudley. I mean,
he was running in the top 5 yesterday in practice. I mean, he's got a chance to come out here maybe and steal the show.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a top 10 at Martinsville. He's got a win or two at Motor Mile, I believe. So.
And another thing that ties into that local flavor of the Cars Tour is Forrest Reynolds, who's a chassis builder, grew up in Newcastle, and now he's moved down to Carolina. But I'd probably say he's got 8 to 10 cars in the Cars Tour late model stock car race.
Shoot,
he built,
that'd be somebody interesting to bring on the show at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm super excited. I guess, Kenny, this isn't your first Cars Tour race.
No, sir.
Because when I said this is my first, you kind of giggled over there for a second, like
I'm just glad. I'm glad to see it here because I'm a homer. I'll be honest. I don't come to Franklin County Speedway much anymore because of my commitments with my other race team and the shows that are over here. But when it's a big show, last year when the Smart Modifieds are here, we raced at Motor Mile that night, and it like to killed me not being here. But it just brings back so many memories for me. Me and my brother were talking about it on the way over here. Back in the day when he was younger, he said we'd have the chairs leaning against the car when Dad got home from work because it was a Friday night show back then to get over here and watch Friday night racing. That's just the way it's always been with my family. We just love this place. It's just got a special place.
I'm old enough to remember when back there behind you and exit in turn 2 was the only Bojangles in Franklin County.
Yes, sir.
The only place you could get Bojangles chicken in all of Franklin County. It was the weirdest thing in the world. And it was like, why can't we get a restaurant here? But you come to the track, and somehow they towed it in from somewhere.
Yeah. And, I'm also the administrator on the Franklin County Speedway Facebook Memories page.
Oh, yeah.
I've got pictures of the Rick Mass night from the newspaper, and it's got an aerial photo, and it shows cars lined up. I mean, the stands are already packed, but cars down the hill and down Callaway Road trying to get in this place.
I'd love to see that. You need to share that picture. I'd love to see that one.
I would do that.
We frequently post a lot of our Franklin County Speedway theme shows in that group, so we appreciate you letting us post it there.
Yeah, and I
think a lot of people end up listening to it and, bring some nostalgia back. And hopefully a lot of those people listening will end up showing up here today.
Yeah, I hope so. I think I've been the Cars Tour best promoter this week. I've been trying to get people over here and just especially the older folks that remember it in its heyday when you had crowds over here like that every Saturday night. $25 ticket might be a little tough in this economy, but to tell you the truth, I would have spent $50 to come watch this.
I mean, honestly, it's really not that bad when you think about the convenience. I mean,
exactly
you
right.
can be here in 30 minutes. There's enough people that can be here in 30 minutes to fill this entire place up. You're going to spend $25 on a hamburger at McDonald's. Why not come up here, keep it local, spend some money on some of these food vendors that are going to be here today, pack the place in, and make these boys want to come back.
Sorry, Billy.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that really grinds my gears is it's too expensive to go anywhere. It's too expensive. What are you going to do with that $25? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
People want the short tracks. They want to keep the short tracks, but put your money where your mouth is and come on to the racetrack.
Well, I will say today, just from my own personal perspective, it seems to be there's a whole lot more people here early than it was back a month ago in May, or April for the Smart, which that really kind of disappointed me too. I figured with Martinsville that weekend there'd be a whole lot more people here, and there was a good crowd, but it seems to be there's more people here in preparation this early. So I'm expecting there probably will be a bigger crowd here tonight than there was.
This tour's got a lot of, and you looking around here, you can see the campers set up.
Oh, yeah.
They have quite a crowd of campers that follow the tour all the time to every racetrack. So
I can't wait to be retired and do something like that. Just follow around to every race and do podcasts and talk about them, and that'd be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a buzz in the air.
No,
when I walked on the property this morning, it was definitely a buzz in the air that I did not necessarily feel for the Smart Tour, and that's no disrespect at all, because I love the Smart Tour. I love what they do, but perhaps it's the weather. It's a lot nicer.
That has something to do with it, I think.
mean, not to call people fair weather, but if it's a nicer day, you're going to want people's going to want to come outside. And that forecast back in April, you're coming off of a record low temperature for the month of April. So that may have had something to do with it. But
it was windy and chilly that Sunday too.
It was.
It was comfortable, but it was a little chilly at times.
There's a couple things to add to that. Number one, people were wore, and maybe we thought it was a great idea, and it was still.
Racing fatigue.
Racing fatigue of 3 full nights of racing prior, plus
Julian and Steve Post did it, and they both sat here.
I know, but I mean,
show.
but they're unique individuals when it comes to racing. That's
unique. That's a good way of putting it.
And in a good way. Don't get me wrong. And another thing is,
get to it, Bodine.
I was going to say, because Bowman Gray had started up, that sucks up a lot of the fans and cars at that point here. So,
all right, as you can tell, they've started practice, so we're going to cut this segment. We'll probably come back here when they get done, maybe catch a break and talk a little bit more. Kenny Lang, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get you back on here for a full episode.
Thanks for having me, Billy. Appreciate you guys.
All righty, we'll catch y'all after this.
Talk to you, baby, late at night when I'm laying in bed. The midnight blues fall down from the sky. And every time the phone rings, baby, my heart skips a beat at the thought that it might be you on the other end of the line. You make it harder to breathe now, baby, every time I see your face in the photographs I keep in my mind. Every time I see your face, I fall in love. And every time I kiss your lips, I fall in love. And every time I hear your voice, I fall in love. And every time I hold you close, I fall in love again. look so beautiful, baby, just like an angel to me. And all I can see deep inside you and me are two spirits that have been set free. Wanna make you smile now, baby, every minute, every day, and make you laugh every time you see me. And every time I see your face, I fall in love. And every time I kiss your lips, I fall in love. And every time I hear your voice, I fall in love. And every time I hold you close, I fall in love again.
All right, we're back here for our second segment. We just got done watching some practice
And rain.
and a little bit of rain. Appreciate Julian bringing that to us.
Julian's definitely cursed with the.
Yeah, we made
Weather.
our way down in the pits. Fine hospitality by Barry Nelson Motorsports. Got us a couple T-shirts.
Autos by Nelson Motorsports.
Got to go stand up on the holler and watch a little bit of practice. That was pretty cool to see them boys from that vantage point. And we come back in the second segment with Dean Motley, the crumb snatcher. He finally made his way here. And we're also joined by a couple guys you probably recognize from all their work out there on short track report.
Get that a little closer right there. How's that?
That works.
You can
All
be
right,
back
cool
a
deal.
little bit from it, but
So appreciate it. Thank you so much. Sorry about the difficulties.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having us down here. Glad to join you guys.
So where are you all coming from? Down in Carolina?
Yeah, we're from Kernersville, North Carolina, just 15 minutes outside of Winston-Salem.
That's down in Bowman Gray territory. Y'all visit that very much?
Oh, yes, sir, man. Been going there since I was about 6, 7 years old.
You're speaking their language now.
Yeah,
yes.
the first time I took Josh out there, he was in a baby carrier, so,
Oh, wow.
you know, that's how he was introduced to racing.
it's a few of them when you go out there.
Yeah, just a few people. If you know how to do it, though, you can get in there, you know, easy and find the right seat that you need.
Yeah, I'm always scared to where to sit. I'm like, man, should I sit here?
Yeah, right.
Am I going?
Well, you
know.
can go in there and apparently get you a blanket out real, you know, early.
Yeah.
Like go in there at 2 a.m. or something and lay your blanket down.
So
So with all the racing going on up and down the East Coast tonight, what brought y'all up here to Franklin County?
Oh, Franklin County,
Franklin
we
County.
love this place. And the Cars Tour, you know. Really, this is probably the biggest race out there. And we try to cover the biggest races, even though we love to cover all these local short tracks, man. But, you know, we want to provide the best that we can coverage, and Cars Tour is it, you know.
So do y'all follow them every week typically?
Not
that they're
every
racing?
week, because we, like I say, we love to get out to Orange County and Tri-County and, you know, the Carolina Pro Series, and we, you know, we'd like to, anything what we feel is the best that week, we try to cover it. But, you know, we don't want to do the Cards Tour all the time.
Yeah.
it's a happening place, man.
Oh, man.
Julian's become our resident expert on the Cars Tour here. What do you think today, Julian?
Well, judging by practice, the Nelson Auto guys are going to be tough to beat. Just the way, especially Caden Honeycutt. I mean, my goodness.
The way he's getting around the track.
We were watching him in first practice today, and just coming into turn one just as straight as possible. But buddy, he was shaking it coming out of turn two, loose as a goose. But then the control, as soon as he got on the straightaway, was incredible.
Yep, loose as a goose.
I mean, but
He did have that thing digging.
But I will say this, I believe, well, now that the rubber's gotten washed off, I still think a track record's fallen today.
13-second laps. That is, wow, and a late model.
I think Mason Diaz turned a 13.6
That's
in
unreal.
practice today.
That's what I was looking for.
So
to see if we can.
Yeah, I
find
think that track record's gonna fall today. If I was a betting man, which I am, I would go ahead and make that happen.
Well, the weather may. I don't know what this. I don't think we got enough rain to affect the track any. So I agree. I don't think it's going to change much.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. This is, I guess, this is my first official Cars Tour race. So,
man.
I've watched some highlights of the last one here, and man, just beating and banging the way they were.
Yeah,
the last
yeah.
10 or so laps.
Yeah, and I'm
Was
gonna
it
tell you,
ace?
this year with the young guys and the young talent that they have, this is going to be a real interesting race because they're going to stay in the pack the whole time. And if there's a lot of them at the end, you know, we guarantee a good finish in this one.
I think that's how it's going to turn out, too. I mean, these guys are just running so close. And you know they're going to be digging there in the last few laps, so there'll be a caution almost definitely in the last 15 or 20 to bunch them back up and give us our opportunity to see that.
Yeah. So were you guys up here for 2020 for the last time they came here?
No, we're actually fixing to celebrate our first year anniversary on May 29th.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, we've only been around for a year, and we're really looking forward to that. We got a lot of special guests in that deal. So we got Lane Riggs, Caden Honeycutt going to join us, and
Very good.
Caleb Hetty, and Stevens. We got Tony Stevens coming.
Tell you what, we just had Caden on our show a couple days ago. We released it out pretty quick to try and drum up some support up here.
Yes.
Talked to him and a couple of his crew guys down there, DJ and Jeff. Went on for about 2 hours, man. They were the coolest bunch of guys. And
man.
he's such a respectable young man too. Like you can tell he's got a lot of passion, but he's what we weren't when we were his age. You know, he's very respectful.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Just to be able to speak the way he did about his family and wanting his, the support he got. I hope he does really good today. I think he's got a chance to come down here and make history.
And he's a racer too, because we got into his background. You know, he's a dirt racer, and he's come up. I mean, hardcore dirt racing down there too. Because one of my biggest questions for him, because he's from Texas, was how asphalt racing has become non-existent in Texas. He said there's only one active, obviously other than Texas Motor Speedway, one active asphalt track in Texas right now. And you think about the size of Texas, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, dirt racing's a different
track
story.
was that? I mean, like, what size is it? Do you know?
It was in Houston.
It was a
Fairgrounds or something, right?
Houston. Oh crap!
Motorsportsplex or something.
Yeah. That's the only active short track in Houston. In Texas, other than Texas Motor Speedway. Even Texas World Speedway was finally dug up and destroyed.
Yeah.
Which to us, that's mind-boggling because you know anywhere between a 4-hour drive in this region. I mean, you could hit up Callaway, Motor Mile, Bowman Gray.
Oh, yeah.
Ace Speedway.
Yeah, I just did a post about that on my page, my personal page. I live 15 minutes from Bowman Gray, an hour and 15 minutes from Charlotte Motor Speedway, about an hour from Martinsville Speedway. And on the route that I do every day, because, you know, we don't make a living off of this deal, you know, just like you
we in the same daggone
right?
boat.
But the route that I take takes me by Orange County Speedway, Bowman Gray Speedway, Caraway Speedway. It's like everywhere I go, there's a track, you know. And still, though, that's why we feel this region is the best there is. And especially we count, of course, Virginia in that region. And I don't know, we love coming out here. I know that deal.
So you guys said you're from Kernersville.
The K-ville.
So I love Kernersville, and mainly because of Prissy Polly's barbecue.
Yeah.
Have y'all been there?
Yes, we do, and there's Clark's Barbecue right down the street.
Yeah,
I've been to Clark's.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Good stuff.
When Madhouse was on the air, Clark's was featured in several episodes.
Oh, were they? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they were. That's how I learned what Clark's Barbecue was, and I'd eat there. And I don't know, whatever. The last time we were there and coming through, for some reason Clark's wasn't open. It was an oddball thing, so we went to we found Prissy Polly's.
Oh yeah, there was a probably when they had a section of it burned a little bit, and they had to redo it. So
that will do
it. Might have been during that period, but I tell you, it didn't hurt their quality of barbecue. I guarantee you that.
I'm a big fan of barbecue.
Yes, sir.
I think Billy's got me hung on. Speaking of barbecue in that region, what's it one in Greensboro?
Max Speed Shop.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's a chain, not a big chain, more of a regional one.
Yeah.
But it's and their food is on another level.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. We went down there and had what I have, the brisket Philly cheesesteak wrap. That's the dangest thing I've ever eaten, man. That's
Man,
fine.
that's just making me hungry. Just
It
It's
is.
a fine establishment. I think I would hook Julian on another barbecue joint if he went there.
Yeah, it don't take much to hook me on barbecue joints. Me and barbecue joints go like a hand and a glove.
That's another thing about our area. Lexington's right down the road, and I mean, some of the best barbecue in the world right there in Lexington.
Yeah, I'm a Carolina fan, so it's Carolina barbecue. I don't like the others. It's just not the
Josh
same.
here, see, we have a little bit of an argument about that. That's one thing a lot of people don't know about us. When we write stuff up, there's a pretty good bit of debate that goes on. Let's just call it debate that goes on before we put our stuff out. We disagree a lot. I like Lexington style, and he likes like the Texas barbecue style,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm with you though. I
Tell you what, probably some of the most
Yeah.
mouth-watering ribs I've ever ate in my life were in
man, yeah.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
Tell you
yeah.
what, the truck stop on 109 in Radford, every Friday they got a special. Those are honestly probably the best ribs in the country. It's something about their sauce. So if you're ever driving up that way, make a special trip to Swing. It's got like the Village River Grill. We done got off on a tangent.
Man,
on
I tell you
barbecue.
what, we had to.
So it goes to show you where we're sitting
Where our
here, and
mind
you can
is
see
at.
all these grills breaking out and
Yeah.
everything right now. So.
I tell you what, we just avoided the rain. We had to come move the podcast stuff back, and well, I'm about to mess it up with the slobber coming out of my mouth thinking about these ribs and briskets and all that. So appreciate y'all doing that.
Did we overwork you by moving the table to get it out of the rain? Now you worked up an appetite?
Yeah, well, it don't take much to work up an appetite, Bodine. You know that.
That's right.
I mean, we once went down to Bowman Gray, tried to go to a race. It got rained out, so we ended up driving 2 hours for barbecue.
Essentially, we did.
That's all we did.
Went back the following week, did the same thing, and
Did
then
the
watched
same
the
thing.
race.
Yeah.
Well, this, I guess this weekend we can also attribute to Dean Motley over here, the Crumb Snatcher. He was reaching out to, who was it you've been working with here at the tour that kind of hooked us up today?
Yeah, your mic's not on,
So
Dean.
certainly appreciate you. And
Hold on, we got to get my Dean's mic in.
now we got another one. Don't know how to check his mic.
All right.
Well, so who is it, Dean?
Keely Dubinsky.
So thank you, Keely, for all your hospitality. This has been a blast. you know.
Yeah, and her guidance, coming in, like she's new in that position. I mean, she's been around, of course, for a while, but she is really she'll guide you and help you any way she can, and that's excellent. Yeah.
What's her official position with the?
What is her official position?
I know she does the media, but I'm not sure what her official title is.
Was it director of media operations?
Yeah, I guess you could say
Something. There's a
that.
director in her title. I could be wrong on that. I've been there and be wrong once or twice, but
Yeah, she got her hands full. I know that. You have to take care of everything in Victory Lane, and man, I tell you, it can be chaotic down there in Victory Lane sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's going to be chaotic down there tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Not to
So if
mention-
you see me wrangling around trying to get a shot, man, don't pay any attention. I'm just trying to get us.
If them
the best shot we can
Nelson
get.
boys win, they liable to start turning back
Oh,
some
yeah.
of that mountain goodness and get rowdy right there on the front stretch.
speaking of getting a shot, I mean, how did you boys get started? I mean, what gave you
Well-
the idea to start this up?
Well, we've had this in mind for a while. When NASCAR had a downturn in attendance, it really hurt the short tracks in the region, and it hurt my heart really, because racing means a lot to us. It's family, and so anyway, it just turned out that this organization was looking for somebody to cover races at Bowman Gray Stadium, and looking for somebody that knew, the drivers and the track and everything. So I spent a year doing that, and then the next year, of course, COVID hit, and and also we had a little disagreement about how to cover. Their organization was out in the Midwest, and we were local, and we wanted to do more, and so we just told people what we wanted to do, and talked to the right people, and they fortunate, that they understood our vision, and so slowly we just started going to different tracks and different tours and everything, and figured out where we needed to be, and so that's pretty much it.
So for anybody that doesn't know, the short track report, basically you're just going around and covering local short tracks and stuff. Do you offer up any videos or anything? Or is it just like photography?
We do.
and-
We have a 5-year plan, of course, and we intentionally started with nothing because we wanted to start and just learn and watch and use the most basic equipment that you could actually use, you know. So the first couple races, I had a phone, and that was pretty much it. But again, we explained our vision to people and all that, but we try to focus on the one race that we cover. You know, we want to give extended coverage, any kind of storylines that happen that most people don't notice, you know, pictures from the pits, of course, first update of who won, and then we do an extended coverage article where we really get down deep into what happened in the race.
Well, that's not much indifferent. You know, I mean, that's kind of how NASCAR's model always was. You know, they would have what's that old ESPN Speed World? You know, they would sit there and they would cover all the races, kind of here and there, but they would focus on that NASCAR race. That'd be the big one. They'd get all the inside.
Yeah,
and
I
they'd
mean,
get all the little inside stories, and it was a great model to work with.
Yeah, and I think it's you have great media people out there and podcasts like you guys, man. We really appreciate you guys. We've been listening to you, and it's fantastic, you know. But nobody really focuses on the one race anymore. They're too busy trying to cover everything that happens in the region. And as we talked about earlier, I mean, this region is amazing. You can't cover everything like that. But we found out when we focus in on what we feel is the best, we end up seeing the best things that happen. And so it's good to get intent with it, you know, and get down with it. Find out how the drivers felt about the track and the race itself and what their goals are. And it's been real eye-opening to us to race control. Race control is nothing like you would think on the outside. It's probably best that most people don't know, but that's probably been the most eye-opening thing, don't you think?
Yeah.
Listening to Keith Graham run his series has been a very, very learning experience for us.
Yeah, it's funny you did say there's a lot of action in this region. Do you think sometimes that's a hindrance to this region because there's so many different options? I personally don't think that's a bad thing to have multiple options, but you can see they're competing for the same piece of real estate and eyeballs.
Yeah, that's a good question because we have a theory on that. When the downturn happened, it really started affecting short tracks, and they had to compete with each other really hard. And so the fans noticed that, and they started latching on to their favorite track, and they're very loyal to their track, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in the 80s and 90s, we went around to all these tracks and watched all these tours where our seat was empty at Bowman Gray. Somebody from Ace Speedway or Caraway Speedway was in that seat, you know, and so there was fans enough to go around everywhere. And so I think that people need to start doing that again. Your local track is fine, especially if you're at Bowman Gray. They're not hurting for attendance, you know. Get out and see a Cars Tour race or a Carolina Pro Series race, or go down to Orange County where the speed is. I heard somebody tell me one time, one of the drivers, one of my favorite quotes, he said that to get a good lap around Orange County, you go into 3 and you just keep going until you see Jesus, and then you go, you know. And so, you know, go out and see these different tracks. They're all different, you know. And like Franklin County, you know, there's a reputation about Franklin County. People don't really, I mean, I think that was blown way out of proportion. But one thing that I do know about this track is every race that I've seen, especially if you put a really good series out here, the race is amazing. I mean, this track is made for speed. It's short, 13-second laps for 27 late models. That's going to be exciting.
Well, let's make no mistake about it. You know, there's been tons and tons of bad and awful things said about Whitey Taylor out there, and I bet you anything that half of them were all said by Whitey in the first place. You know what I mean? He'll start rumors about himself, you know.
That is absolutely the God's honest truth, and I truly believe it. If there's because Whitey knows racing in itself is a show. It's meant it puts on a show, and Whitey is one of the most genius track promoters of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean to keep this thing alive during that downturn where, you know, Concord went down, Myrtle Beach went down.
Myrtle Beach hurts.
Wow,
that one still hurts.
But
that
see,
one stings.
Concord to me, you know, Concord was an amazing, beautiful track, and it very challenging because, you know, if you could run the backside up there wide open, you know,
I've heard a lot of people
loved
loved
some
it.
talent to do that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, Myrtle Beach still hurts the soul.
It
'cause, I mean,
stings.
that had so much history. I mean, you talk about a unique place in itself. I mean, a little dog leg it had in the front straightaway.
It is
I mean,
a
it's
weird,
very unique.
it's a very different track, and it's the layout of it was bizarre, and it was a unique track, and the history there was so. It runs so deep into NASCAR's roots. I think that's why it stings.
Yeah, and the funny thing you touch on that is, you know, people, and we've already touched on that in this episode, that people are crying and craving for, we want more short tracks. We want more short tracks.
Yeah.
You better get out and support them. Like, I want to see these stands full tonight.
Well,
I mean, the
last
Bowman
year,
Gray should be
too,
full.
At the end of last year, we were amazed at, like, you know, talking about, can you support all these tracks with the fans we have? We were amazed at no matter what track we went to, and man, we go to all of them, you know, that the fans that were there, I mean, we can see a resurgence coming, but, you know, the economy right now and everything that's happening. But where else can you go to where you can spend $20, you know, and have such an entertaining day, you know? And like on the local night, it can be as low as $12 or whatever, you know?
And you're talking about a lot of guys out here that are cutting their teeth on, you know, ready to move to the next
Yeah.
level. I mean,
Yeah.
and we've had this talk on here, you know, the last few shows we've really delved into, you know, the next gen cars and stuff, and how that part of NASCAR, you know, the scrummage around, you know, junkyards and trading this and here, that's how those days are done in NASCAR. So all these stories about guys struggling and hitting up junkyards for parts and having to do this or this to find that extra little tenth, those stories are being told here with the Cars Tour and with the Smart Mod Tour and things like that. So you're also preserving history, and you're telling stories, you know, for like Caden Honeycutt. That kid, he could be driving on Sundays in 4 years, for all we know. I mean, he's got a lot of passion, and he's clearly fast. You come up here for the first time in your life and turn nearly record-breaking laps. You're doing, you know,
Well, we got to do our first NASCAR race, and we went up there and did that, I don't know, what would you call, that's the most freezing cold I've ever been.
Martinsville?
At any race. Yeah. It was like torture for me covering it.
Julian
down
was
there.
at all 3 races.
But you know, I mean, they'll get all that stuff worked out. I'm not worried about that. But in the truck, when we covered the night in the trucks, Honeycutt was in there. He was running some pretty good laps at one point. Of course, he got taken out, and I mean, you know, you can't judge a guy for what's that? His
first
start.
That was his first
Yeah,
start.
his
I mean,
first
come
start.
on, I mean, you
And
know.
he was staying out of the way.
Yeah.
That equipment was not the best. That's a team that's just trying to get their feet wet, trying to get started. It's a relatively newer race team. They do have some racers behind that team. However, Johnny Sauter has a part in that team to trying to get that up and going. But yeah, he stayed out of the way, and I think the advantage he's going to have is, one, he's young. Number two, he's got a look about him that is going to attract sponsors, but
He's
also
marketable.
He's
very
marketable.
marketable.
He has the Casey Kane aspect.
Yes. Yeah.
If that makes sense to the
Yeah.
He
listener.
does.
And
He's
I mean-
quite a bit taller than Casey Kane, though.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take much to be taller than Casey Kane. If you ever met him, it's like, wow, is this a kid or is he a grown
Speaking
man?
of which, Casey Kane ruined autographs for me when I was a race fan, because I just got back from Iraq. I'll never forget this. It was in April of 2004. We went down to Martinsville. We actually had a parade for my Army unit coming home through Rocky Mount that I skipped so I could go to the racetrack. I just didn't want to be around a bunch of people. Anyway, so Dean's dragging me around the souvenir lot or whatever. And he starts pointing at these, you know, these kids in Dodge Ram jackets or whatever, race jackets, and he's like, come on down here. Why the hell are we walking down here? Let's go get some autographs. I said, from who? And I chase him on down there, and he goes and gets his kid. I said, Dean. I said, it looks like Ray Evernham's kid who's getting ready to, you know, go to a high school dance. He said, no, that was Casey Kane. I said, I can never get an autograph again. He looked like he was 14 and out there winning races.
He
Oh,
wasn't
yeah,
far. He
man,
wasn't
we,
far from it then.
We covered William Sawalic's first win, and now, you know, watching him grow, like he was so short first time when he won that race, and now he's, you know, he's about as tall as me. He's a little bit taller. And, you know, he's still young, you know.
Yeah.
But, man, the talent that comes down here to race, you know, like you said, Honeycutt comes from Texas out here. There's a reason. I
Yeah.
mean, all these tracks are a benefit, not a, you know.
I know we've
detriment, I
got,
believe.
Junior Motorsports got the Cavapple. Is that how you say his name?
Quapple.
Quapple. And, that's a legacy driver right there.
Oh yeah.
Down here in some pretty good equipment. And of course,
Yeah.
the local guys we've talked about on here in the first segment.
And they've got 2 Quapples. They got
Yeah.
Carson and Caden in the pipeline.
Yeah, and I tell you, Caden might end up being maybe better than Carson. I don't know. Carson's great. I mean, so it's hard to tell, but just to say, Caden is excellent in himself. And the weird thing about it is to us is they're 2 different drivers. I mean, they both run smooth laps, but I believe Caden's a little more aggressive. But he sneaks in there on you, where Carson's coming. You know when he's coming.
I always heard that from Austin and Ty Dillon when they were coming up. Everybody was like, Austin, he's running good, but y'all better watch out for Ty. But he hasn't had the success in the big series like that. But I heard that a lot back in the day. It was like, you don't know what Austin's going to do, but by God, when it comes down to it, when they were running dirt late models, they were running all over the place.
Yeah, I think that Ty took, he wanted to take the harder road.
He did.
Like he said, he didn't want to just take Pop-Pop's ride or whatever. I think see, people talk about that Silver Spoons or whatever. Listen, if it was us and Pop-Pop offered you $1 million ride, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
You better believe it.
I'll make my reputation later, but, I do respect Ty for taking that road, and now he's getting another shot, with Petty. And they seem to be changing and getting better. So I'd love to see Petty back in victory lane again.
I think you're going to see it according to Julian and Dodie.
I think we're going to see Eric Jones sooner than later.
Yeah, he's been running good, too.
Because that team's getting better every week. I wouldn't consider them top tier right now, but they're knocking on the door.
I mean, they're outside playoff contention, and they are ahead of some pretty big teams.
Yes.
So, Eric Jones has just been bitten by just horrible luck.
But he's been
they couldn't get the tire off the car at Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
They did something.
That was a debacle.
I mean,
wasn't
my
it?
goodness. Just flat tires, crashes, taking the wrong lane at Talladega when he had the lead coming out of turn 4.
Had them covered.
But Ty is an interesting story because a year ago, Ty Dillon basically said, I'm done.
Yeah.
There was a lot of rumors and innuendo, but if you go on his social media channels, he'd basically given up. It's like, you know what? This isn't worth it. I got a family. He was struggling at the time, didn't have a ride, and then GMS came calling, and he is taking advantage. We got to remember, that's a new team.
Yeah.
That is a new team. Yes, the Petties have been around, but that is a new team, and they're still getting accustomed to the new car just like everybody else. So it's good to see, and I've always thought, and it's not a knock on Austin Dillon. That's not what we're about. We're not here to knock other competitors on a personal level. But I always thought Ty Dillon had the most skill and had the most talent. But like y'all said, he just never had, or for whatever reason, a lot of it probably by choice, is that right opportunity.
Yeah.
We will knock Denny Hamlin, though.
I can knock Denny Hamlin all
We'll
day.
knock Denny Hamlin.
I can knock Denny Hamlin anytime you want to.
We still remember Martinsville.
Yeah, that whole chase deal.
Yes,
we were there.
I didn't like Denny Hamlin before, so it didn't. Denny Hamlin Denny Hamlin's mouth is what I don't like.
All that being said, Denny, if you're listening and you want to come on the show,
You're welcome.
Love to have you. Yeah, we'll have a good old conversation. I mean, we can probably drink a beer together. I just ain't gonna root for you on Sunday. But I'm a Gibbs guy too. I root for Kyle Busch. Catch so much hell for that.
Hey, you don't have to root for them, but we'll welcome them on the podcast. We will sit and talk to them for days if we have to. I mean, because I'm sure he's got some interesting stories, and he is a Virginia native.
Oh, he is, and he's about the most booed Virginia native in Martinsville
I ain't
history.
never seen such a. I ain't seen such.
It's crazy. I mean, just imagine if Chase Elliott was booed at Atlanta.
See, that's a very good comparison.
Yeah.
The pride of Dawsonville.
Yeah, we're
Got a little
definitely
noise.
on like the 90s country music station.
Yeah. Hey, Julian, I got one for you. Just looking at the practice, Mike Looney was fastest in this last practice.
Oh, wow. See,
By about a tenth
well,
over everybody.
it's funny you say that because Mike Looney 2 years ago waged a epic battle with Jared Fryer for the checkered flag. Jared Fryer ended up taking the win that night. But Mike Looney is in the field tonight. Jared's not here. But Mike Looney is hungry for a Cars Tour win, and he feels like this place owes him one.
I think it probably does. I mean, but what happens if a local driver does win? What if, say, like Kyle Dudley wins? This place is going to go crazy.
Oh, yeah, they're going to tear the place all to pieces.
Oh, they'll tear it up, but it'll just be a monstrous win for a local guy. And Kyle turned some decent laps in practice, too. It's not like they're just,
He's
chugging
running top
along in the
10
back.
all through practice.
I mean, Kyle is one of those guys who kind of goes under the radar. He's been hustling, trying to get something going. He's got a win or two at Motor Mile, and a top 10 at Martinsville in the Valley Star race. And that's one of the toughest races, not only to get in, period, but then to run well at. And Mike Looney is a former winner of that race.
And when it comes to Looney, I mean, their luck has been so bad. If they could just get a win out here, I think, they would think that a lot of this stuff is worth it. But, man, they are due a great finish.
And you all know, and our listeners too, that 87 is a very famous number here at Callaway.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that goes back to Billy Martin. I mean, so.
I mean, we got Dudley out here, and then the Cockrum. He's up from Floyd this way, and that's a good thing about these races, as we alluded to earlier, is the guys that might not be on the tour week in and week out, the local guys can come in here and make it one hell of a race.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the Busch Series used to be back, I guess, in the 70s, 80s when it was a Sportsman Series. Some of these guys that get back then, Busch would go to Hickory and South Boston, and you get these local drivers jumping there, and they sometimes win the race.
Yeah,
get some of the best talent in the country.
They know the track so well, and usually like tire wear or something crazy will get them, but when they know the track and they got an advantage, I think.
I mean, Jimmy Mullins out there, how many times he won a track championship here? Probably.
Multiple track championships.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be out there tonight. He could end up being a factor.
Yeah, because they know what this track's going to do when it cools down a little bit. And I think that's why everybody's so loose. They know the track's going to tighten up a little bit tonight.
Yeah, they definitely were in that first practice session today. Everybody was loose. I don't know if they adjusted, but in the second one, they were seemed like a lot of them were loose off, and I feel like that's because they cars were real tight in the center, and once they try to get it to turn. That I feel, and then they adjusted on them a little. So then the second practice, big change from yesterday.
Well, would you guys like to guess what Mike Looney's lap time was when he set fast time?
12.995.
Well, not quite. 13 and a half. 13.58.
Oh, it wasn't a qualifying speed.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, but still.
Was that the fastest in
Now,
practice?
here's the thing.
That was fastest in this last practice
Looney,
earlier
really?
today.
A lot of these guys haven't shown what they have, and what's going to be interesting is when they qualify, they're going to be within tenths or thousandths of each other, right down to the last qualifier.
Well, I didn't see a lot of difference. I mean, most time you go to practice sessions for these late models, you might have the field 4 or 5 seconds off of one another, from the slowest car to the fastest. But I looked at this time sheet, I'm not really seeing that. So this is going to be, I'm not just saying this because this is our home track, but tonight is going to be a huge wild card with the Franklin County ringers, the track surface. Unfortunately, we are having some issues with the track breaking up. It's been repaired. The rain came in, washed all the rubber away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of question marks coming into this race, and that's pretty exciting for a storyline, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
Already,
and we haven't even started the race yet.
I got a feeling though, if the Nelson cars qualify up front and they're able to get out, I feel like they're going to be hard to beat. I'd seeing that from that time yesterday and how that went down, and just knowing how those cars perform. Those guys have been working every day and night. When we talked to them earlier this week, I just got a feeling that this race could go their way, is my gut.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is the time of year that Bobby McCarty starts to make a run.
Oh yeah,
so, he'll sneak, like he'll let these young guys think that they got something. And then he'll make a charge.
He led every single lap when we went to Ace and it followed. Billy, that you did go. That was an Ace race. That was a Cars Tour race.
It wasn't a Cars Tour sanctioned race. I don't believe
it wasn't a points race.
No, and I don't even know if It was the big late model race, but I
That's
don't
true.
think it was a Cars sanction.
No, it wasn't. Was it? It
But
was.
a lot of the
it was a
Cars Tour guys
memorial
showed
race.
up to it for
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
reason.
they do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And-
those big money races.
Right.
And if
Them
you've ever
trophy
seen
winners.
Talladega Nights, you know, when Jean Girard's just driving out there with one hand and reading the book, that's kind of how he was the whole
Yeah.
race. I mean, a couple people got up beside him. I mean,
The only
I don't think
thing,
he sweat.
the only thing that he was behind the whole night was the pace car. That was the only bumper he seen was the pace car.
I think what we thought was impressive last year is talk about Honeycutt, and it's interesting that they finished first and second points last year, and now they're teammates.
Yeah.
You know, we
Oh,
thought
really?
that
He
was
finished.
pretty
Caden Honeycutt finished second.
Second
in points.
points.
Yeah.
Did he win any races last year?
No.
Yeah,
No, he won 2.
yeah, he won
Did he
2
really?
races. Last
Langley.
year.
Oh,
4.
okay.
I did
didn't
not
think.
know that. I thought this was his rookie year.
No, I knew it wasn't his.
Well, I know he told us on the show he'd raced last year, but I didn't realize
Yeah,
he
he
had
was
that good of
second
a
in points.
season.
Yeah, rookie of the year.
Okay. Well, this makes things a lot. Okay. Wow.
And so now they're teammates, and I don't remember them running 2 cars in a while. Maybe they did. I'm not sure about that part, but
I thought they had 2 cars at Ace, but as we said, that was a special event.
yeah. But
And-
McCarty at that last race of the year last year, they had to go to a harder tire, and it threw everybody for a loop. It's over there at South Boston, and I mean, you have to have your car right to perform there, because if somebody hooks up, they're going to be gone. And McCarty had the experience on the harder tire where all them young guys, they didn't know, they were all pushing up in the corner, and McCarty his car got better and better and better. So, I mean, that experience comes into play when you're a multi-time champion on this tour. I mean, it says something.
I'm assuming they had to switch tires. Is that because of the tire shortage?
Yeah, tire shortage deal. That's another thing. You get some regrowth happening in the short track, and you have stuff like that. Tracks canceling races, canceling seasons, it's unprecedented.
You know what's interesting about that is I talked to Chris Williams a couple weeks ago, and it was when they were in negotiations to run Wilkesboro in the event there, and he told me, what is it, August 1st and 2nd or 2nd, 3rd, whatever it is. Apparently the series, when he makes the deal with Hoosier at the beginning of the year, he has a deal for so many races and so many tires.
Yeah.
He can change that, but if he's booked for 13 races for the supply, that's all he gets.
Yes. That's what the Hoosier representative told us. We contacted them guys and took forever for them to respond, but give them credit for responding. But they pretty much gave us the line that deal with it. You're going to have to deal with what you got. We can't go any more than what's promised, so it hurts growth, and we found that the products that they use are right here in America, but I mean, the cost and everything, when attendance did go down, when they tried to cut tire cost and everything, now it's kind of sort of come all full speed, and with the supply shortage and everything, getting enough tires, but they said they're working on it, so we'll see if they get it, better situation.
And Hoosier is not as big of an operation as Goodyear or Firestone, where they have road tires they supply. They have a bigger population. The Hoosier doesn't have a street tire. So their operation is not quite as big, and now the market's getting huge for them. I mean, I used to love Hoosier tires when they run in the Cup Series. It was always interesting when we had the tire wars.
Yeah, they definitely increased speed. I mean, you got to give them credit for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, Jeff and I
whatever
went out there and
cost
won
that
like 3 or 4 races with Hoosiers that year.
What was it, 93?
94.
Was it 94 the
Because
last year?
Kawicki died in 93, and then Bodine took over the team in 94, and that's when because that was kind of his deal, Hoosier tires. He was going to be the face of Hoosier tires coming back into NASCAR, and you ended up winning 3 races. That was pretty
was
impressive.
funny.
It was.
That was funny about that is, according to Jeff Bodine, Big Bill, we all know who that is,
Yeah.
Big Bill France, encouraged him to do Hoosiers.
Well, yeah, I mean, he probably wanted competition.
Yeah.
And, really, I mean, the American way, it's gotten away from competition as, everybody's consolidated everything, and so now we got one. Well, you got American Racer, but they come out right off the bat and said, we can't produce any more tires. But you basically, Hoosier has the market. So
Yeah.
if they can't get a tire out, then, you're stuck not running races. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe I remember. Do I remember a story It may have been Earnhardt, one of them when they was running those tires. They had the tire war that year. And maybe it was Earnhardt that went out there and spray painted. They wanted to test them. Somebody spray painted a Goodyear stencil on a Hoosier tire just so they could test them and Goodyear not find out. I don't know if that's a true story or not, but I don't think I would have made that up.
No, that's it sounds like something that could happen, you know. Some of the stories in racing I've heard that people have got away with is amazing, you know.
Those are the stories you're going to hear for, tours like this. And it's kind of a good segue. I'm glad Bodie brought up Wilkesboro because kind of curious on y'all thoughts about that. Are y'all planning on going down there and covering any of that? Or
Yeah, we're it kind of hurts us, you know. Like I said, I have to go to work. So, but they're running most of the races we want to see on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that makes it hard for us to get to, but I'm trying to work it out to where we can at least get to the Carolina Pro race and, of course, the Cars Tour race. We want to see them as much as possible, like I say, you know.
Yeah, I think we're definitely trying to make our way down for the smart mods, and I'd like to set up somewhere down there and maybe do a show because that'd be pretty epic. You know what I mean?
I've got two pieces of information to share. Interesting about Wilkesboro. Have you ever heard of a company called Grindstaff Underground?
Aren't they here?
Yes.
Have it.
Oh,
They're local in Snow Creek.
yeah.
Devin's girlfriend Emily, her dad works for Grindstaff Underground. They were
Oh, we know the grind staffs.
Yes, they were contracted to do the cabling under the track at North Wilkesboro. So a local business from Franklin County won the contract to go down to Carolina. They start next week, I believe. Also, Musco Lighting will be adding in lights to to North Wilkesboro.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I ain't gonna tell where that came from. I ain't gonna tell the source for that.
What excitement
That's
that
breaking
North
news here.
Wilkesboro's generating from doing this, you know, coming back, and you know, Smith is definitely doing it right. He's got the right people doing it.
Yeah,
And,
Marcus
yeah,
is brilliant.
we want to see as many races as possible, just because you know the surface is going to be gone. Even though it's going to be a new surface, to me that surface has seen so much history, you know, that we just want to see it before they rip it up out of there, you know.
Cool to
That's
think.
kind of why we want to go.
Yeah.
Is it cool to think that they're going to be running dirt late models on 50-year-old? I mean, on
It's
that
strange,
1950.
you know. Who would have ever thought we'd see dirt races at North Wilkesboro?
But I think that's going to be cool. I think that may capture a bigger following in that time period than anything. I don't know why. I just wonder. I think that may bring back a lot of legacy racers to go out for that dirt race.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got to give credit to dirt racers. Like I say, our attendance has went down and theirs has went up. I mean, the way they run their tracks,
Yes.
kind of old school to me, like what I'm used to knowing about the way they run tracks. And I mean, it's got interest. You know, it's a little weird, the rules, the way they stretch them out and everything, but still, it's they've really, their fans are amazing.
Do you think it's fair to say that in the downturn of short tracks, that the dirt tracks kind of carried the loads to keep?
I think, you know, and I probably shouldn't even mention this and go on the limb, but me and Josh talk about something all the time, and we feel that there's a good segment of NASCAR that hasn't recovered from Earnhardt's death and the sport itself. Helton did a great job of keeping everything together, because in the bubble of NASCAR, they really thought that this might be the end of NASCAR. You know?
did.
But as a fan, for me, having his eyes open, I mean, Richard Petty being a rag doll in his wreck, Fireball Roberts dying. Fireball Roberts, people don't realize, back in his day, he was considered the greatest racer there was out there. And his death, you know, but NASCAR always continued to go forth. And Helton was smart enough, the first thing he did was, you know, go to those cars, and people hated them, you know. And this is where
They were
NASCAR,
awful.
they lost a lot of fans with the car of Tamar and the other car. And then they got that car pretty good, the newer
did.
one, right? And then they switched to this new car. But see, we figured it out the whole way. This new car was what they wanted all along, but they had to start saving lives. I mean, Adam Petty died. You know, Nemechek died. Neil Bonnet died.
Kenny Irwin
you know.
Jr.
Kenny Irwin Jr., yes. All these drivers in a short span.
All
you
the
know.
same injury.
Yeah, and now, you know, people say I'm some kind of Christian nut or whatever, religious nut, but I believe that God was trying to tell NASCAR something, because if you watch how that went, they went from lower drivers up to higher drivers almost in a progression.
They did.
You know, and Petty dying so close to when Earnhardt died. And so the sport, it just kept on piling on and piling on. And Helton had to have a car that wasn't going to kill people anymore. In today's era, it's not acceptable for people to be dying in sports.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with them looking at the head injuries and all this stuff, you know, they really thought all this after Earnhardt died that it could be the end of the sport. So, you know, a lot of people did, I think, go to dirt almost as a rebellion kind of thing, but they put on such a great show once you go see dirt and the car control that it takes, you know. When you see two guys throw it in sideways, and I mean, they're completely sideways in the turn, inches from each
They're
other.
sideways on straightaways.
And I mean, you know how out of control it is
They are.
on dirt, you know. I mean, well, at least in my generation, people don't hardly see dirt roads anymore.
I was
Yeah.
a big fan of the Carolina Clash.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite series. But yet, and I think your point is accurate, and I've really never thought about that in context. Dale Earnhardt was larger than life.
Yes.
And when you take that icon out, it did stunt everything.
But see, the thing that we heard, you know, and social media can be brutal nowadays
Oh,
in
yeah.
NASCAR, but well, they don't give you a break sometimes. But anyway, it's a family. We look at it as a family, and I'm concerned about it's one of the things, you know, we've been talking about from the beginning. And I mean, it hurts so bad. I mean, I remember when it happened on that, it's almost like one of those things that
Yeah.
shock you so bad you always remember where you were, what you were doing when it happened. And I think it was like that for a lot of people. And then when they seen the sport changing so much, they got so far away from it. But I do think with the new generation and like Josh's generation, you know, they're more like engineers and, you know, tech guys, and they're coming into the sport, and it's interesting, you know. But not only that, but they're bringing their fathers back to the sport.
Yeah.
You know, and it's important for people, and I think soon people are going to see what Helton and NASCAR has done. I don't think they see the overall picture. When they see what they have done and what they tried to do, they'll never be racing like it was back in the day, you know, like when Smokey, you know, was doing all those innovative things with cars. Cars were different and all this stuff. Even the street cars now, if you see one car come out that people like, there's going to be another brand just like them that'll come out, and you'll think it's the same car almost. And I mean, you know, NASCAR has to deal with that progression of the car industry.
And
I
that
mean,
COT was atrocious.
it was atrocious. I mean, but think about this. That what I'm getting to is Dale Earnhardt, his death, it saved lives.
It did.
And like, Earnhardt didn't come to the sport for Earnhardt. Earnhardt came to the sport because of Richard Petty, Lee Petty, Cale Yarborough. All these people that made
David
the sport
Pearson.
great.
Yeah.
And the sport is, I mean, progressed. In my day, there was maybe you could say the best talent, and you talk about little drivers, you know. Could a driver get in and drive what Benny Parson drove? I doubt it. You know, but could
Well,
Benny
even
Parson...
Benny couldn't drive it. Benny used to, back at Nashville
Yeah,
Speedway,
Benny couldn't
would
drive.
have a relief driver come in and
Yeah.
take over for, you know, a couple hundred laps, and then Benny get back in the car and win the race.
I think that's where the sport has evolved, and these guys are athletes in a different way now. They're working out every day to be able to put up with the stresses and the stuff. And those guys,
And look how many, like in our day, like you can say, even legends in the sport, you had at the most maybe 12 drivers that could win at a time. Now you got 25 to 30, you know?
you do, and
Like-
especially today, we're seeing mile-and-a-half races that are entertaining. I'm like, where did
and
this
they
come
run
from?
Even in a pack. I mean, it's, you know, it's fantastic, right? Especially at the start of the year, I think it's been great. But yeah, that's the way we look at it. If Earnhardt loved the sport for what it was, I mean, why would we turn our backs on it?
But it's interesting
mean-
you say that's where the rebellion kind of changed, because everything shifted to dirt in
Everything
Carolinas
changed.
then.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting point. When they seen the COT, it was like,
You talk about the COT. Everybody wants to bash NASCAR. That's like the
Yeah.
popular thing to do.
Yeah.
Let's bash
no,
NASCAR.
I'm bashing the car, not NASCAR.
I don't understand that. But everybody loves to bash NASCAR for all the changes, for this that they've done. At least they have tried.
They have tried.
I
They
mean,
have-
again, think about the lives that have been saved.
Yeah.
I mean, in our day, when they had wrecks like they have today that they're complaining about racing each other too hard, that's another story. I got to get this story out before this segment.
Let's hear it. I got you. I like this.
We heard the story. This is our favorite story. They talk about racing each other hard. Earnhardt raced you hard for a reason, because he wanted to get to the end of the race when you wore out, right? But he learned that from older drivers. Who was it? His great? I know it was Benny Parsons, right? But
Which one?
you know, that said that he was like wore out and he looked over.
Oh, yeah,
and,
Benny Parsons and David Pearson.
yeah, David Pearson. Benny Parsons said he run this race and it was all he could do, trying to keep up with David Pearson. He had one of the best cars that he had that day and really working, man. And you know, back then they had oil and grease on their face. You know, had them
No
up
power
helmets and
steering.
everything. No power steering.
Bi-sply tires.
Yeah. And he said that he was wore out. I mean, he was working hard, you know, and that's Parson. He's a big guy, you know. And he said that he was proud of himself, you know. So they had this big caution, and he pulled up beside of David Pearson. He was going to say, yeah, that's some great racing. And he's all just wore out, you know. And he said Pearson was already done wiped his face and everything. And he was leaned back just like he wasn't even working, smoking a cigarette, you know. He said it totally took him out of the race, you know. And that's an example of why they race people hard. Ryan Newman is correct what he did, you know, in his career. I mean, is that not what they hire you? If I had a driver, I want him to race. I don't care. I want him to race hard every lap, you know.
Ryan Newman was a rolling chicane.
If you got a whole field running like that, then you know the winner, you know, did everything that he had to do to win, you know.
He is the toughest guy, I believe. No, any modern driver will say the toughest guy to pass was Ryan Newman.
Oh yeah, man. There's all kind of the drivers herself, you know. I'll tell you, hardest driver ever to pass, no matter what, even if he's a lap down, you know.
Bodine's mentioned that on this show before with a couple guests we've had about Ryan Newman, and tell you what, I honestly, right before, I guess it was right before the whole COVID nonsense when he had that wreck at Daytona, if I'm not mistaken. That was in 2020, and that was a year I really started kind of getting back into racing a little bit. You know, I had a little daughter, and I was like, well, when we home on Sundays with the wife, and she's gonna be taking her in there to go to sleep, I'll sit out here and watch, and that got me back into racing a little bit before we started the show. Well, and I'll tell you what, to walk away from that accident, I mean, I just knew. I knew. I said, his head was right there. Where that car hit where his head should
and I
be.
mean, you can see,
That's
you know,
190
they talk
miles
about
an hour.
the concussions and talk about them cars. So the car tomorrow led to the car that he wrecked in.
Yeah.
This is the way we look at it. If you slow that down, and when he got hit, you can see the car shake, vibrate, shake. Not a bend or whatever, like a concussion shake. If you slow it down, you can see that. That's what used to kill drivers back in the day.
Yep.
That you call the head whip. That's
yes, and just the whole all that pressure coming in on the driver, you know, where now it's dispersed out, you know.
You know, when you talk about Dale Earnhardt's death and how it affected so many people safety-wise,
Yeah.
that Daytona 500 with Ryan Newman was the first time since Dale Earnhardt's death where I watched and thought I saw a fatality.
I thought it was too.
Yeah,
I wrote
I
it.
was,
You and me wrote it. Me and you were like talking. I wonder what. I take this back, Ryan. I'm sorry if you were to listen to this. Me and Julian and our buddy Ryan were in a group chat that night, and I remember us saying, "I'm like, I mean, he's dead."
We
There's-
did too. I was on
Yeah,
the road and he texted
He was
me
coming.
immediately.
He was
you
coming
know.
home from work, and I called him and I said, "Listen, Ryan, I think Ryan Newman just died." And he said, "No, it isn't that bad. They can't die in this car." And I said, "No, I'm serious. I think he's dead."
It was how they acted. It was how
Yeah,
AMR
Mike's
safety
very-
crew acted.
Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon in the booth. Jeff Gordon looked like he was about to cry. You know,
the
and
cameras
Joy-
cut away, started doing some
Yeah.
weird stuff, and I'm like, "Are
And
they
then
here?"
they covered the incident, which later they did that to just have a clear path so people on their cell phones couldn't get shots that didn't need to be.
Yeah, they did. They rolled that. It's almost like a welding screen out there.
Yeah, I think that's great because, you know, in journalism, man, if you shouldn't. I mean, I know some people feel like that's their job to get those kind of pictures and everything, but I'll never do it, man. There's some things that we've set some guidelines on. I just don't think that's the kind of thing that you need out there with as much as drivers and teams put into it when you have that kind of moment.
No.
That's not what people should remember Ryan Newman for, you know.
You're right.
It's
and-
unfortunate that you. I remember Ryan Newman. I mean, as far as a driver, for his ability to qualify back in the day.
Oh man, yeah, they called him Rocket Man.
They
for
called
a
him
reason,
Rocket
wasn't
for a
it?
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not trying to sensationalize. Easy for me to say what happened that day, but safety has come so far that you see a hard hit, like, well, they're going to get out, and that's a dangerous way.
We got complacent in it.
Yeah.
That's very dangerous.
It
and
is. That
Ryan
is
Newman
true.
Crash
Yeah,
made
we
us realize
discussed that too. That maybe we have to know that anything can happen.
I mean, you can still, even parts flying around can go through and penetrate the car and sheet metal and stuff like that. I mean, the windshield's still unopened. They've done a long ways, but things can still come in and hit the driver. And that day we really didn't know because the way it hit was like, wow.
Oh, I mean, when you think about drivers end up getting killed, you're thinking about super speedways going 200 miles an hour.
We do.
But New Hampshire got Kenny Irwin and
Adam Petty.
And hell, Martinsville's probably taken 10 or 11 modified drivers over the year, including Richie Evans.
Yeah.
And I mean,
just like Bowman Gray, I used to go and they said it's just a quarter mile. You can't really get hurt there. But I grew up in the most dangerous. There was dangerous before that, but NASCAR is nowhere near the danger that it was then. I've seen a car explode over there, and blow up on the crowd with steel gas tanks,
Wow.
I mean, as far as the sport has come, it's amazing, but we've seen people bounce like a basketball over there at Bowman Gray. Anything can happen at any track,
They all died from basal or skull fracture.
Basal skull fracture.
But there is actually a driver that wrecked in the Cup Series that had a basilar skull fracture and survived.
And that would be
Talladega.
Stanley
Stanley
Smith.
Smith.
Stanley
yeah.
Smith.
When Jimmy Horton went over the wall at Talladega.
Which is the funniest interview.
We thought Horton was,
he was the one who's going to be hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. And go ahead and say it. I think I know what you're going to say.
That was the funniest interview ever was with Jimmy Horton's crew chief. Because they asked it. They said, I forgot what they asked him, but they said, well, how's he doing? And the crew chief said, well, he don't have too good radio reception over there in the parking lot.
Well, and he said they went down there and talked to him later, and they said, well, I knew I was in trouble because the first guy that greeted me had a beard.
Yeah. That's one of the greatest memes in internet history right there.
And you are in trouble when your car's destroyed and you get out, and the first guy is a guy with a beard going, hey, man, are you okay?
I bet he had a wife beater on and a Dale Earnhardt hat.
I guarantee
it.
You can see it in those clips, man. You can see the people coming. You can see that guy walking away, man.
Yeah,
Could you imagine, though, chilling with your buddies, and all of a sudden, here comes this car rolling down the hill?
Yeah, you're not even in the track. You're outside the track.
Just out in the parking
drinking
lot.
beer,
Well, that's Talladega, though. The race is not always the primary.
You're right about
That's
that.
But in Stanley Smith, I was going to say Stanton Barrett. I don't know why that name stuck about it, but Stanley
time
Smith,
period.
Stanley Smith was on the inside of the track about to die. Like he was.
Yeah. And nobody realized.
Even the cameras and stuff didn't really capture that because they kind of cut back to it when they were getting him out of the car.
But it did capture something else. There was medical workers coming to his car.
Yeah,
and they
because
thought
they knew.
saw
They
someone
knew. But
not
see,
alive.
that goes to show, like I'm saying, that concussion hit, man.
Yep.
When you hit, he took the brunt of that whole wreck, in the driver compartment.
And
And he actually raced again after that.
yeah,
many years later,
despite his family's objections.
I think he ended up passing away about a year or two ago, actually. Of something obviously different, but I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, but talk about great comeback stories like that, like Ernie
Irvin.
and Steve Park,
Steve Park still ain't right.
No,
you can
but
still,
I mean,
but
he
he
went
made a
out there
comeback.
and won race and won the mod race. Stefanik wasn't too happy about that one,
Yeah,
but
Which Ernie Irvin.
did y'all ever see that? Stefanik was hot, boy. He said Park roughed him up a little bit, But if I was Park, I'm like, I'm roughing everybody up. I'm gonna get every win I can before I go back out.
It was cool seeing those comeback stories. Speaking of the angle of the wrecks, I just seen lightning and I just might have peed my pants. Last week there was a video posted. NASA and the thunder rolls.
there's Garth.
NASCAR did a test of the next gen car at Talladega, and I'll find the video for you. I shared it with everybody. If you didn't see it, they did a test. They put a they remotely controlled the car, and it come down pit road at full speed and hit the wall right under the flag stand at what they've called the death angle before.
Yeah, right.
At that side angle. If I can find that video, you find that quite interesting. Because based on what you research in Rex and stuff.
Yeah,
and they use that.
See that.
They used the data. They had a dummy in there set up, just a crash test.
Yeah,
dummy.
I heard something about it, and people were saying that it was a horrible test, but NASCAR, everybody said it was good. So
yeah, the data from it probably was tremendous because Kyle Busch was quite critical, rightfully so, last year of NASCAR and then publishing their crash test data for that car.
Yeah.
And I don't know when this actual test occurred, but it was pretty cool. I mean, they just, wasted a car. Well, no, there's next gen cars. You can just unbolt the front end.
Yeah, they're three pieces, right?
Yeah, you can just unbolt the front end and the fenders and stick a new one back on there. But it was a cool
But
test.
they're remarkably tough, When
composite bodies,
Larson hit the wall 3 times that hard and still, finished pretty good there.
But the composite bodies come from these series.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, talk about short track racing. The innovation is out here. This is where they learn all
and
this
it's
stuff.
These bodies, it first made its way to the Xfinity series. I still yet to understand why it didn't in the trucks, because some of my favorite racing's in the trucks and they need it. But these composite bodies made their way to Xfinity, and they're so dang tough that they just bend back, and you don't get, you see them out here racing, you're not going to get the flat tires and the fender rubs and stuff. And I mean, you can destroy them, but you just don't see it. And I it's kind of cool that seeing it and making it up to the top tiers.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the strategy, because now you can lean on some people, Maybe they'll bring the rub in this race. Like, there's a reason they're saying they're racing each other too hard, but I want to see them race each other as hard as they possibly can. That's
Well, they went to thin steel bodies too.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah, they did.
But years ago, the tougher cars were big old thick bodies, and they've been a lot.
Oh yeah.
And in the COT days, they become really thin. I remember Team Red Bull actually acid dipping the sheet metal to make the bodies lighter. Do you remember that, Julian?
I seem to recall.
They took the bodies, the steel bodies, and they dipped them in acid to make the panels thinner. Bizarre.
I mean, you gotta give them a
That's
hand
innovation.
for being creative. I mean,
Yeah, and they probably had the backstory that we're just etching it so it don't rust or whatever.
Yeah, that's probably what they said. So.
Well, since we talked about Wilkesboro and we want to kind of, who knows what this weather's going to do. We kind of talked about Wilkesboro, and that leads me to ask, you are the short track report, and of course we kind of like y'all, we like talking about the big event coming up, and so, and Julian, you'll be a good one for this one as well. So for the rest of the summer and the rest of the racing season, what all for you all do you have to look forward to for the bigger races? For me, I definitely like to make Martinsville for the late model, the 300.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a thing. I'd like to make it a Bowman Gray once. Maybe the SRX race at South Boston.
Yeah.
And a couple smart mod races, of course, probably New River coming up in the fall, maybe Ace again. But, I mean, what do we have to look forward to from y'all's perspective for the rest of the season?
For us, it's going to be the More Cars Tour, and as far as big races go, we do want to go to Martinsville for the 300. That's a goal of ours. We also are hoping, probably shouldn't let this out of the bag, but we're hoping to do an ARCA race, do that one out at Bristol so that we can do the ARCA and the truck race at the same time.
That's going to be this August, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to try and be down there as well. We've been working on trying to sponsor Jesse Little's truck and Young's Motorsports. They come on and gave us their time and tried to get us from Martinsville. Didn't quite work out. Try to be down there next week for Charlotte, but Bristol as well. So I didn't know ARCA was running that weekend. That makes it even. That'll be the same day.
Yeah, same day.
It'll be
header.
parts strode all over that racetrack.
We haven't been confirmed yet, but we're pretty. I mean, we're close to making
demolition derby at Bristol. Basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what's on my bucket list for this summer, and I was talking to them earlier about it, is I want to go to Millbridge Speedway.
Yeah.
Have y'all been out there?
We haven't, man, but we definitely want to get out there. But definitely the
SRX at South
the
Boston.
SRX at
South
South
Boston,
Boston.
yeah,
but
we need to
Southern
make our way
National's
there.
got a big race.
Yeah, the
again.
Thanksgiving Classic, $50,000.
Yeah,
to
we're
win.
definitely looking forward to that.
Now, where's that at?
Southern National is the Thanksgiving Classic,
Yeah,
late
the
model
track,
stocks. Yeah, it's Lucama, North Carolina.
Shoot, $50,000.
$50,000 to win.
50,000. So, you know, when you have no points and you're going for that kind of money, you know, I mean,
That's
it
a late
makes it
model
interesting.
race.
Yeah.
We're gonna be bringing in all these boys down here for that.
Yeah,
Trophy
yeah,
hunt.
definitely.
Trophy
And of
hunt.
course, we want to. We'll be covering the Carolina Pro Series. So we get to go next week to Motor Mile. We've never been there, so
Oh, they
that's
got
going
a-
to be great.
That
Now it's-
facility's great.
As
Yeah,
far
we've
as
heard
a
a lot of good
facility
things
for the press area and stuff, second to none.
Well, he gets to take advantage of that. We were over at Martinsville, and I'm down there freezing. I mean, I'm just down there, and I said, "Man, it is really cold down there." And he's up there and said, "Well, it's nice and toasty up here." And
Food just got catered.
yeah, now you know, catering just came in, and I'm down there like, "Are you serious?" I just ate a hot dog, and I had to hurry up and get over there to cover this pit stop or whatever, trying to get good footage, you know. And so my hot dog's cold, I'm cold, and he's up there eating catered food, and you know.
Wow.
So I'll
that's
be
the
down
life.
there sweating on the infield. Josh gets to take the advantage of the press box.
You'll if you get a chance though, get up there in that press box at Sheeler because it's a phenomenal experience.
I
How
tell
they-
you, Tri-Counties and South Boston's press boxes too are they're awesome, you know. And Tri-County's got that nice view of the mountains out there, you know. And we're looking forward to getting down there because this is our home track now for Short Track Report for many reasons we explained. But we haven't got to get down there yet because of rain and a couple, you know, cancellations and whatnot. So
I don't
we're
want to
just
talk
looking
about
forward
rain.
to seeing a lot of local racing, you know.
I've tried to go to 2 races in the last 2 weeks, and Ace Speedway, the Cars Tour.
Yeah, we were up
We
there.
were-
That,
we were in the
that
parking
got
lot.
rained out.
We were actually scheduled to go to Orange County for our first local race there, and it got rained out. So we went to South Boston and sit in the parking lot. Or no,
It
Ace
was Ace. It was
Speedway,
Ace
yeah,
for
and
Car
sit in the
Store.
parking lot and, you know, rained it out.
Last
So what do you
week, tried
think's
to go to
going on
Bowman
here? We
Gray.
got
This
clouds,
is
but
what you
it's,
call this is what you
blue
call the
sky, so-
the devil beating his wife.
Yeah, this is awful. Like,
when it's
I've
sunny
not
and
heard that
raining.
term in
it's
a
going
long
this way,
time.
so it's going to go away.
Yeah,
I'm
it'll
pretty
go away,
sure,
but it's
just,
coming
you
hard
know.
from that direction.
And the humidity it's bringing with it, but still,
Yeah.
it's going to get out of here.
Yeah, we'll go racing, but with the weather coming, it seems like a pretty good place to stop. We've had a hell of a day up here so far today.
Yep, I got
This is going to be a good race. You won't hear this, but anybody got predictions so we can fall back on it?
Yep, I'm calling Honeycutt. I'm taking
Honeycutt.
Honeycutt.
Julian, Bodine, both Honeycutt?
No, I'm not going Honeycutt.
Oh.
I'm going Bobby McCarty.
Okay.
Man, those are good choices. And see, who do you got? See, this is a tough one. We talked about this on the way up, but this is a crapshoot. This
You know,
one,
it's a veterans track. I'm going to go with Deke McCaskill on this one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Interesting.
Really good one.
Well, I'm going to go with, I think that they got a good car, and I think that they really need a win. I'm going to go with Looney in it.
I figured you was gonna say Looney there because
Yeah.
You know, I guess just for the sake of being a different, I mean, if I was a betting man, I'm gonna say Honeycutt just because he gave us his time the other night, and that's just how the world works. But since Bodine chose him, I'm gonna say Dudley sneaks up here and gets a hometown win and surprises the entire crowd.
that would be
Wow.
cool.
I think
that
so.
would be
He's,
really
hey, look,
good,
he's been running good in practice. He knows the track. He's definitely going to be, you know, he's going to be hot to come out here tonight and put on a show. So,
And leave
You know,
it to
I
Billy
think,
to go out on a limb. I like that.
so I'm going for the hometown guy. But we appreciate everybody coming up here today and hanging out with us. Our first segment, Kenny Lane. Thank you so much, Julian, Jeff.
Man, I was gonna say I'll get back to my predictions after qualifying. Can we adjust them? I want to see qualifying. It's gonna tell the tale.
Buddy, we're not getting back on the computer. This is it. This is the end of the show.
Oh, I know, but we'll talk about it
this has
later.
been
We'll talk
recorded.
about it later, but this is for the record.
I just wanted to put that on the record. I want to revisit
He
my
wants to
pick
You want to put it on the record? You want to
after
revisit it.
qualifying because
I
I'm
think
telling you, if the Nelson cars qualify good, I do not think they can be beat.
Do you think they can finish 1 and 2? Do you think
Yes.
you can see some amazing
Yeah, I
do.
finish
I don't.
like that?
I don't think you'll see it.
That's a good call. I mean, either way.
You could.
I
It's a
think
possibility.
if Quapple gets in between them and they all run together, which is been about what's happened, you know, during the season.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, Quapple has a way of like letting you think his car's not good, or maybe he just, you know, he qualifies well and everything, but you just don't think he's going to be as good as he is, and then there he is at the end, you know.
Well, that's no different than Travis.
Yeah.
Travis was like that when he raced Truck Series, and well, didn't have the greatest Cup career, but the Truck Series where he drove for the Addingtons.
Yeah.
I was going to say Arringtons, but that's not right.
Was it Steve Addington?
Steve Addington.
Yeah.
And then he drove for Roush.
I'm interested too to see if York runs good. You know, if
Well,
maybe
that's
he
what
might
I
be a
was-
hindrance to Honeycutt having as good a finish as
He's
he
kind of a
does.
wild card because he kind of stepped out of the
I
late
just
model
thought
for a
I'd
little
throw that
while,
out there for thought.
and now he's back in it. He's going to run at
Man,
Ace.
he
where it got
runs
rained out.
great, man. He's really running good.
I done added five more minutes to this by putting that on record.
Dang it, Bodine.
Damn it, Bodine.
All right, so for Billy, Joshua, Weatherman, Short Track Report, you can catch y'all on Facebook.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course we have a website, and we're also working on our YouTube channel just to make it easier for our videos, because we're going to be making a lot more, and we're starting a podcast, and we're not going to reveal the name yet, but you'll know. So we're on the anniversary special. You know, maybe we'll say something about that.
Congratulations on the anniversary. We just
you.
had our 1 year back on
Oh,
April
man.
29th, and we're getting ready to launch a second podcast ourselves. So any help you boys need, feel free to reach out. Hopefully we can collaborate and go back and forth.
Yeah, definitely love
You know,
to have you
because,
guys on,
more
for
is
sure.
better. It really
Yeah,
is. More is
Absolutely
better.
it is.
Definitely.
Yep, and we can work together and maybe even be on each other's shows again. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and then we can figure out who he's got in the race.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So for everybody that made this day possible, appreciate the, what's her name? Kylie?
Keely.
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 My apologies. I know Dina spoke with you.
Dubinsky.
For Barry Nelson Motorsports, hospitality, and for the show
Gosh,
we had
their
earlier this
hospitality
week.
was great.
Yes, absolutely. Langley letting us come up here and set up for this show. Josh Grice, field musician, for the music that they provide. Who else do we miss? Oh yeah, Buddy's Barbecue. Thank you, Buddy's, for the food early this week. I think you got some more fans. Hopefully,
Yeah,
hearing this show, you come down through there, you check out Buddy's Barbecue. It's some of the best around.
I see a
And for
food
Dean
truck.
Motley, Julian, Jeff,
All right, we'll catch you next time.
Billy,
See
Joshua.
you guys later.
Catch you next time. Thank you so much.
I see a food truck coming in there. I was getting excited.